Hello again, CSCI-150 students. This is a new recording in which we're going to talk about multi-way if statements. Again, this follows the reading, the assigned reading, and the set of problems from your Zai book. So please make sure to do these before you view this video. The example that we're going to be using today is very similar to one from a previous recording where you enter a couple of scores, exam 1 and exam 2, as you see over here, and then based on the value of the average, one of the messages in the top table gets displayed. So this is slightly more complicated than the previous example. If the average ends up between 70 and 90, including 70, we want to display the message average. If it's less than 60, we want to say failing. 90 or greater, excellent. And then between 60 and 70, we're going to say passing. Again, depends on the value of the average. Once the average is computed, first we display the average value itself. And then what I did as a first attempt is I basically took all the conditions that we have over here and translated them literally into their equivalents in Python. So average is greater than or equal to 70 and average is less than 90. We're using compound conditions over here. We display the string or the message average. If it's strictly below 60, failing, greater than or equal to 90, excellent, and from 60 to less than 70, meaning that it includes 60 but not 70, we display passing. And as we shall see, I'm going to test the program for a couple of values over here. Again, we want to focus on boundary cases. So in this case, you clearly see 60, 70, and 90 being important boundary cases. I'm going to first get an average of 70. So let's say 68 and 72. The average is 70. And as we expect, we should see the message average. Try it again now with something below 60. Let's do 60 and 59. 59.5 should be failing. Above or equal to 90, let's try 90. So 89 and 91. Excellent. 90. And then finally, from 60 to 70, let's try 60. So that would be 61, say, and then 59, we get passing. So as you see, this works fine, but it's not the most elegant way. And it's as the number of conditions increase, it becomes very hard to test and make sure that this program works properly. One of the things to notice here, and we alluded to that in the previous video, is that since all of those conditions are dealing with the same variable, it's much better to utilize a single if statement with multiple branches in order to achieve the same outcome. So in our case, what we're going to do is I'm gonna comment this part out over here, toggle comment, and then actually let me first copy it over here, and then we'll toggle the comments. Toggle comment. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to view those values 60, 70, and 90 as a number line, and then consider figuring out how to put my conditions such that I go from the most specific to the most general. So for example, over here, less than 60, we can start with that. I know if it's not less than 60, it's going to be basically greater than or equal to 60, which will include all the other conditions. So we start with one end and then go all the way to the other. So I'm going to start with less than 60. The next one that comes after that will be less than 70. So now instead of having to have another condition, I'm going to say something like else this condition, but since we're using the same variable, we could use the shortcut notation and say elif. You know, if takes a condition, elif takes a condition, but else does not take a condition. And since this means elif means else if, then I no longer need to say that the average is greater than or equal to 60. It's already understood, because if it weren't, it would have already executed the first part and quit execution. So that's the nice thing, the major difference between a single if statement with multiple branches, multiple elif conditions, versus multiple if statements. With multiple if statements, all of them are going to be evaluated, even if you know that only one of them will execute. And then after that comes 90. So again, the same thing. I no longer need to say if greater than or equal to 70. It's already understood. So elif less than 90. And then if it's not less than 60 and not less than 70 and not less than 90, then it's got to be greater than or equal to 90. So I don't even need to see it to say that. Okay, so notice how much I've simplified my program, you know, from this ugly long list of conditions that aren't as efficient to this very nice, orderly, and much easier to test program. So again, toggle, let's test again the program for the same values we did before. Okay, we start with 68 and 72. Okay, that's the first condition over here. I'm still getting the same value. The second one will do 60. 60 and 59. That will be 59.5, failing. The third one was 89 and 91. So 89, 91. We get excellent, which is exactly the case over here. And then finally, we want to get 60. So let's do that. 60, oops, my bad. 61 and no, yeah, 61 and 59. Okay, so we get passing, which is what we expected to get. So there you have it. One of the things I want you to think about is, does order matter? Can I, for example, start with this? So do something like this. Average is less than 70, else if average is less than 60, average less than 90. Do you think this program will work correctly? The answer should be no. And the way you're going to answer that is by thinking about a particular value that where you expected, for example, to do failing, like think of a value less than 60, let's say 50. You know, because 50 is also less than 70, it's always going to print passing. So in other words, this condition over here is never ever going to execute. Let's give that a try. Let's do 60 and 55. So the average is 57.5, which should be here. But because of the order, I no longer have that. And that's what I meant at the beginning. We go from the most specific to the more general. By that, I meant, you know, less than 70 is more general than less than 60. Less than 60 is more specific. So we cannot have them ordered like that. It has to be from the most specific to the least, or to the more general. We could, of course, do it the other way around. We could start from 90 and go all the way back, checking that it's greater than or equal to 90, greater than or equal to 70, greater than or equal to 60. And then proceed accordingly. But I'll let you figure this one as an exercise on your own. For now, that should be all. Thank you much for listening so far.